Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Focus Train Society podcast. I don't even know what episode we're on. Five. Episode 5. And our special guest returned. He had such a great time last week. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's Milo.
Kita's around. She's just in the corner, so you can't really see her yet.
I'm sure she'll make an appearance as well.
My husband is at work, so therefore we have the dog.
Babysitting duty.
Yep.
For now. Well, we're just going to get into it today. We're going to go over what we read, hot take of the month. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Also, with that being said, for our hot take of the month, hot takes are hot takes for a reason. Let's just throw out there as well that we do hot takes because we're entitled to a hot take, but you're also entitled to a hot take.
We are open to opposite opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Be respectful.
Yeah.
I feel like we were really respectful on our hot take, so be respectful to us as well. But if you have a different opinion than us, that's why we're here to talk about it.
Talk about it.
We're open-minded. Anybody can change my mind if they have a good argument.
Yeah.
So I don't stand on either way. Just be nice.
Be nice, and we'll listen.
Yeah. We will respond. We will take into account what you have to say. But if you're rude about it,
it just proves my point further.
Yeah. That proved our hot take of last week.
Proved our hot take of last month. It was last month.
Yeah.
Last month. Yeah. So, but also, if y'all have hot takes, we want to hear them. We want to talk about them because we have hot takes about a lot of stuff. But, if there's a common census, is that the right word around a hot take? Still beefing with Barnes & Noble. Never changed. Never changed. It's just Barnes & Noble pre-order specifically because the last time we went to Barnes & Noble, they had
good selection.
Had a good selection. They kind of ebb and flow.
It really just depends on which Barnes & Noble you go to as to what they have. Like, I've gotten to the point where I'll go to the one here, also the two that are like
in Cool Springs, right
here.
Yeah, so, and that's like when I go back to Arkansas, I go to those Barnes & Nobles.
Different stuff.
Which is fun. Yeah. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt.
It really is.
I'm always like, I'm going to go see what they have over there. I went to 2. I not only drove 5 hours, I drove also 45 minutes to go to these 2 new Barnes & Nobles. But yeah, just is it too controversial to say keep politics out of books? Are we going to get canceled for that?
Possibly. I know say books are political, but to me, I'm not a very political person, so therefore I don't read books for the politics, and I don't read into the politics in books if they're talking about them.
Right.
I think the only political book series, or where I saw the politics in it, Hunger Games.
And that's the thing,
that's you have made for.
Or even, right, or I'm even thinking too of what is that one, Animal Farm?
Yeah.
Very political. What's that?
They were made to talk about
politics in a kind of fictional way. But if I'm reading about Faye's fucking, that's not political. Don't make it. It's not. If you're talking about a hockey orgy, that's not political. Sorry, you're writing a hockey romance. This is not our hot take of the month.
No, this is
not our hot take of the month. Sorry. Okay. Let me get my phone. We're going to get into it. So, do you want to go first or you want me to go first? You have more books than I do. Somehow. It doesn't matter. Somehow. All right. I'll just kick off. So, I'm still on a little bit of a dark, but also on a series kick. So, in March, I was in the process of reading The War of Lost Hearts by Carissa Broadbent. So I finished that series. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, I had such a great time. I'm so sad that I did not buy that book when we were at Books A Million. Yeah. Because now listen, they were saying it's out of print, but I was looking on Amazon the other day because they don't have book 2. Oh. Book 2 is we're not sure when this is going to come back. And of course, people are profiting off that on Facebook. And I'm like,
is it because she's going to do an actual print?
Maybe I don't know.
With, the
Serpents of the Wings and yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that's why. Because that's a lot of them are going out of print. I know Rena Kent, all of her male covers.
They are going out of print because they have the really nice, pretty floral ones, which I do still really want to buy, but they're $22 at Books A Million. I'm like, that's a fat series. But the first one is Aiden, and you're like, We love that.
I know.
We love it. But I'm also like, $22. The only time I've ever done that is when the bonsai tie. Or no. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the
Bonsai tie. Didn't look at it. Just bought it.
Who cares about a cost?
I didn't that day. And apparently I didn't yesterday
You
either.
did not care yesterday at all.
Y'all, listen, it's fair. Okay. Speaking of
I'm buying it, but at least I was conscious of like, okay, let me wait until we at least have money in.
Okay, now listen, and a valid point, someone in her comment section she did ask essentially like, are the pre-orders going to be a little bit more spaced out? She was like, I would love to be able to obviously buy all of them, but they all say that they're like pre-order / releasing in April kind of thing. So she was like, I want to buy them, but I don't want to miss out on them, but I can't afford to buy all 4 of them right now. So she was basically, and that was what I was worried about.
I'm going to get 3 in 2026 and only 1 this year.
Right. But that was what I was also worried about. Like she was saying, if I were to have only ordered book 1, with everyone doing these pre-orders right now, she didn't make it super clear of like, this is kind of the first run. And then maybe in the future.
I'm just waiting for my next paycheck.
Right.
I just wasn't gonna.
I just blacked out.
Yeah.
I've been waiting on this book series to be redone,
First
though.
of all, don't even start that.
No. But I'm giving credit where credit's due. Here. Jessica made. Oh, and also this is all around Brutal Boys of Every Lake Prep, by the way, by Caroline
We've
Peckham.
mentioned it a number of times.
Yes, I owe credit to Jessica for reading said book. But now we're here, and I've waited.
I've waited longer. And I
Semantics.
am still waiting because Garrett did tell me, he was like, you can get them.
Ethan doesn't know.
Yeah, Garrett told me I could get them.
Ethan doesn't know.
Him to it.
I'm just gonna wait, and that because I told him about the books. I was like, I need you to be so excited. I've been waiting for these books since 2021. Like she's redoing them. It's what I wanted. And he was like, oh, that's amazing. But I was like, I didn't tell him
how much
I spent.
Yeah.
Okay, listen, technically girl math too, because I did PayPal in 4.
That's not girl math.
That is girl math. Okay. Don't Garrett me right now.
You're still paying it. It's just you're paying it in segments. So you're still owe that amount of money.
Correct. But I only spent $60.
For now.
Right.
But eventually you're going to spend the $240.
Mm-hmm. You're right. You are correct.
Yeah, it's rough.
Girl math though. I only spent $60 when I bought them.
And you're going to have to spend $60 again next month.
Mm-hmm.
And the next. And the next.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Worth it. Thank you, Caroline Peckham, though, for redoing these covers. So, anyways, War of Lost Hearts, super great series. It is, I believe it's coded as like a fantasy.
Yeah, it is.
But it is such a good fantasy. I kind of told Jessica it was giving the great value version of Throne of Glass, but in a good way that if like, because we've been talking about rereading Throne of Glass since we read it, honestly. And so this was something that was literally
the 13th.
Actually, poll at the bottom, is it Manon or Manon?
I know what it is.
I don't care.
It's Manon.
Manon. Yeah, I don't care. So this is great as far as like I was really wanting to reread Throne of Glass, but this was something that was like a happy medium for me of like strong female character, really, really good storyline, not except the only reason that it kind of felt longer than it should have been was simply because it was late at night and I was like, I can finish this book tonight. And so then I was kind of like staying up later reading. So yeah, that series was 10 out of 10. I have no complaints. Very like reasonably, and it was a trilogy, which that leads into our hot take, but we'll get into that later. And then I did start the Zodiac Academy series. I'm not done yet. I'm on book 4 right now. I guess I didn't update that I finished this book. Yeah, book 5. And I can't get too far into it because I'm not done with it just yet. But I will say, as of for the month of April, how I felt about it, I had a really good time. I am having some serious beef with Tori right now, the one I told you about, especially because there was, I don't want to like give spoilers, but there was this big ordeal that happened in this book 4 last night because I finished it. Big ordeal that happened, once in a lifetime thing between her and Darius, the guy that I was like, she obviously like loves him but hates him. And there's a big difference between doing a strong female character and then doing a brat. She is giving me a little bit more
Bryce in Crescent City 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this in the sense of like, I stand firm on this decision, but then immediately turning around and be like, oh, I'm so sad. I want everyone to feel bad for me. I'm miserable and I regret what I did, but I'm not going to like say anything. And I'm getting this vibe of like, I'm kind of better than everyone now, but I'm also like wanting attention from everyone now, but I'm also like not going to actually listen to anyone. So
The tongue outside of the mouth.
Mhm. I'm just really hoping it gets a little better. I'm trying to like give her some grace because this is also not a Nesta hate podcast. I'm team Nesta.
I love Nesta.
I love Nesta, so this is no Nesta hate. Is she a bitch? Absolutely. Did she have some amazing character growth? Absolutely. You wanted more complex female characters, you're gonna have to dislike them.
You always dislike a female character at some point.
Yes.
I think I even didn't like Selena, Aylin, whatever, at some point.
Yes.
In Throne of Glass.
Right.
But her character growth and the reasons she did things
makes sense. Right. And you can't go straight from like, oh, I love her, and then immediately like, there has to be growth and you have to understand why people are the way that they are. But like, and that's why I'm trying to give this the benefit of the doubt. I'm trying to not hate her fully. It's just like, I'm at the point now where it's dual. So the whole series is dual point of view, or multiple. Yeah. Dual is 2. Multiple point of views. And so now it's to the point where if I get to her chapter, I'm like, ugh.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like give her some grace, give her the benefit of the doubt.
To be fair, that's how I was with Manon at one point.
You were. You were.
Now, I love her.
Yes.
She's like my favorite female character.
Yes.
But she had growth.
Yes.
And I think that's the key, is you cannot like a character, but if you like the book as a whole, you keep reading, and guess what? You might learn to love that character.
Right.
Because that was actually kind of part of our hot take before, was you're not going to always love every character.
No. And if you do, then that makes for it to be...
It's boring.
It is.
I'll get to my reviews. I will mention that. Because I get bored fairly easily.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah. So I'm having a good time. I'm definitely staying in my dark era for right now.
I'm moving back into mine.
Which is fun. And I'm still trying to keep up with my like 2025 in as far as just like reading just to enjoy reading.
That's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm not, I would always read at work.
Yeah.
And then
I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I know. And I would read at home as soon as I got home.
Right.
That's what I would do. Now I'm kind of spacing it out because I feel like I was not grasping it. And I was just working towards that goal.
Yeah.
And I mean, my mind right now is not in anything. But that's why I've only read 7 books this month. Because I haven't even really reading at work as much anymore. Because I'm just like, I read it, which I think it's also, I'm such a mood reader. This month was not a good.
Right.
I could not find a book that I was like, yes.
I know. Because when you told me that you were having a good time with the series, I was like, I'm actually so excited for you because you were not necessarily like, I'm having a bad time, so to say, but also just like, this just kind of feels like reading because I'm supposed to be reading.
Yeah.
Like,
so like, I ended last month on Serpents in the Wings of Night, right?
Right.
So I continued it with the novella, The 6 Scorched Roses.
Mm-hmm.
Loved it. It was only like 120 pages. I finished it in like a day.
Novellas are also fun. I think it's okay to
count as books.
They do count as books, and also I think that they are fun. Again, this will like roll into the hot take very easily, but
The Serpents in the Wings of Night were about 2 characters. The novella, 2 completely different characters.
Yeah.
That you don't really get to know. And like, I feel like it's not super important, but I liked the fact that I knew who they were when they came into the Ashes and Starker's King. Because again, you don't get to know them.
And novellas are just fun too, because sometimes I feel like it's a good way to either get to know more characters, right, in a way that doesn't feel like, holy shit, there's like 900 people in this book, and you just added 2 more people. And sometimes novellas, I think, are a great way to just have like a little side story that, like you said, is like a break. I know you don't love it, but I always just think of like A Court of Frost and Starlight. I know you're.
Not a break. That was literally about the same characters.
But it was a break. They went from being in like the middle of like war, people dying, to a literal fun Christmas celebration. Right.
But here's the thing: is this novella was not a peace book. So
Yeah.
I feel like if it would have just been a peace book, I would have not enjoyed it. I need some conflict. I do.
Just let them live in peace.
You know?
Just need a little break.
And then I read The Ashes and the Starker's King. Now, that was a duet. It was a fantasy. I don't know if I just was not into reading a fantasy, but I did not enjoy the second book.
I remember this.
I felt like everything was just so drawn out. And it didn't need to be. The first book as a whole was fantastic. I finished it. It took me a bit because fantasies take me a little bit longer just because I can't just sit down and just like gobble them up. I could Throne of Glass, but not the first 3 books.
Yeah, Throne of Glass is, I know, that's just any fantasy too.
Yeah, it's so much world building.
Yeah.
And so it's just a little bit harder. And then, but then it got so complicated. It got political. And I was just like, I'm kind of bored and I don't really like it. I skimmed some because there was just a lot of battles because they're in war. And I was like, ugh.
Meanwhile, you're like, I like conflict.
I don't like when dude is distracted by thinking about the girl in the middle of fighting somebody else. And
yeah, that is really annoying.
I'm like, pay attention to what you're doing.
Your life is kind of on the line, my dude.
He's literally coming at you with a sword. Like, what are you
you're like, I wonder if she's thinking about me. She's probably not. Probably not.
Got to where she needs to go.
Probably not. And now you're about to die.
I'm like, if you die, she's gonna be pissed.
Right.
So it just, I don't know. And they went from like enemies to lovers in the first book back to enemies to lovers in the second book. And I'm like, okay, you already got to the lovers portion. And I know he betrayed her, whatever, everything in her eyes. The whole thing, I don't know. It wasn't a bad series. I think I just wasn't in the mood.
You definitely have fans moon for a fantasy.
Yeah, I don't think I was.
I feel like I can kind of pick up a fantasy from time to time, just not even thinking anything of it because I don't read anything about the books before I pick them up. Yeah. I just go into it.
I do that with some, but But I did DNF a book.
Here we go.
Okay, it was part of the series. It was like book 3 of 4, and I just got bored. There was nothing about this book. It was Corrupted Vow by Eva Ashwood. I read the first 2 books, and even then, like the first book was good. Mm-hmm. The second book, I was like, okay, this is getting weird. And then the third book, I'm like, no, I had no desire to figure out if she gets away from her evil grandmother. And like, if these blood brothers that she's sleeping with all of them. I'm like, and like sleeping with them at the same time. I'm like, this is just, no. No, I'm not in the mood. I don't like it. Hi, Mila. I have all the animals.
Nico.
So yeah, I was like, you know what? I finished that fantasy. Like, I'm going to read a cute little small town romance.
Small town romances have to be done correctly. I don't make the rules.
I don't think I needed a book on every sister. So the first one, Always Mine by Laura Pavlov. Mind you, I bought these books because the covers are gorgeous and the sprayed edges make a picture. So I was like, oh, this is great. I love this. There's 5 books. I only bought 4 because the 5th book just came out this month and I'm not buying it, if that says anything. So little small town romances can be really cute. They can be cheesy, but there's a point where they're too cheesy. And you have to do a small town romance, best friends to lovers, really well.
Yeah.
Because I just, like, the whole time. So here's the thing. The whole time they were friends, they were in love with each other.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no. Like, I don't like when best friend romances do that. Because I feel like there's a reason y'all were best friends and not in a relationship for that long.
Right.
Like, you clearly had to grow into an in-love situation. You don't start there.
I feel like the only way you can do, like, friends for the only way you can do, like, oh my God. The only way you can do friends for an extended period of time to then be lovers is kind of almost like either an enemies to lovers or like a brother's best friend kind of thing. Because if you're just best friends to lovers, then yes, it's very valid to say like, well, then why haven't you been in a relationship this whole time? Yeah.
Our relationship didn't change other than the fact that they started having sex.
Right.
And I'm like, okay.
Is this the one that you got like a big percentage of the way through before they had sex? Or is it?
All of these were about halfway through.
Hmm.
The big percentage of the way through is the one I'm on now, the Hollow Boys series.
That's right. Okay.
But okay, so she had never had an orgasm or whatever, and so he was
Poor girl.
more, and so she's like, "Hey, teach me what to look for."
I don't like it.
And I'm like, okay, if y'all sleep together, y'all we're already in love with each other. Of course, you're gonna just end up together.
Right.
They end up together, like maybe 50% of the way through the book, and then there's like a random conflict that's thrown in, and I'm like, okay,
We've talked about this before too, like predominantly when you're gonna like have a series that if it's gonna be a multiple book series that you need to have like one big problem.
yeah.
But if
Well, these can all be read as standalones because they're all about different sisters. So like I get like having the conflict and all that. I just think that if you're gonna do a best friends to lovers romance,
right.
I feel like it needs to be like one of you might have been pining after the other, not both. Like,
yeah.
I think
because then I mean, did they try and pull in like fourth proximity or anything? Or was it like no? Okay.
No,
sometimes that's very like
so her dad is the fire. And
I'm going for the dad. I'm going for the dad.
He works with them.
Okay.
So like I mean, I guess like the whole town is so small that everybody knows each other.
Yeah.
And so
which can be super cute.
It can be.
But it's almost, again, it has to be done in such a very good way. I will say, I know you didn't like it, but like Pumpkin Spice Cafe.
Oh, yeah, I hated that one.
I know. But
I did like the second book, though.
I haven't read it.
The Cinnamon Bun Bookstore?
Yes, I did. Is that the one where, yes, I did.
Yeah, the Cinnamon Bun Bookstore.
I did. I did read that one. Correct.
That one. Just, like I said, it has to be done well, and the story has to be done well.
Right.
And so I think this.
I need someone to also get the Strawberry Patch Pancake House and tell us if it's any good.
Christmas Tree Farm, hated.
Yeah, Jessica didn't. I haven't read. That's the one I haven't read. I didn't read Christmas Tree Farm.
I just did not like either of the characters.
Yeah.
And if you don't like either of the characters, that's part of the reason why I'm not reading the fifth book in this series.
Because you didn't like the characters.
I didn't like that sister in any of the books because she just talks weird. She's too much. She's out there, and just
so not like a strong female character, just like a one. Yeah,
who has no filter. And so
that's kind of how like Tori is though right now in these Zodiac books. She doesn't have a filter, and at first, when it first ever started, it was very fun. I was like, haha, like that's great. Now I'm just like, you're just being a straight up bitch right now. You're just being nothing but a bitch, and I don't know. I'm still laughing. Honestly, I'm really growing to love. There's another character in there. Her name's Geraldine. She was the one that I called you about that. It made me giggle. No, damn, it wasn't her. It was the Darius's like cousin that he's supposed to be marrying. And this was the one I called you about where she was like, what do I care about what an overgrown starfish says? talking to the siren. And like banner like that is funny. But if you do it too much, it makes it very kind of like
stuff that she says. Her name's Dylan, and they call her Dilly.
Ew.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Because you do like a good nickname.
I love.
You love a good nickname, so if you give it a no, it's a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dilly.
Gross.
Now, Evermine, which is the next book, loved.
Mm-hmm.
What did I give it? Let's see.
I think I gave
4 stars.
Yeah.
It was really good. I finished it in like a day.
Yeah.
It was second chance romance, which I typically don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that it was done, it wasn't like they broke up and then you didn't really know why until about halfway through the book. And it was a legitimate reason.
Okay, that's fair.
It was a legitimate reason. She had just lost her mom. She was moving to New York. He was staying in California. And his hockey coach was like, you're going to hold him back. Because he was playing professional hockey.
Oh.
And so she got guilted into
leaving him. Or like not being with them.
Yeah. And like, but they still loved each other. They were still like,
right.
They weren't pining after. They dated other people.
Right.
They did the whole thing. And they didn't immediately pick up where they left off when they saw each other.
Right.
They worked at it.
Right.
Grew.
Right.
Loved it.
Yeah.
It was so good. And, like, I loved the female main character. She was, like, headstrong. She was a psychologist, like, helping him work through his issues.
Yeah.
But also working through their issues as a couple. It was great.
We love a strong, healthy relationship rebuild.
Strong, healthy. And they were strong and healthy from high school.
Right.
So, like, I loved it. It was great. I gave that one 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 because, again, it's cheesy.
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't reread it, but it was really good.
I think my favorite second chance romance, and I can say it just because I'm re-listening to it on audiobook, is Happy Place by Emily Henry.
Yeah.
That is probably, and I feel like that is done in a very decent way because it wasn't just like, oh yeah, we spent this time at this, our favorite place and now we're going to like get back together. Like there was, this big actual understanding because, you don't really know in Happy Place. You just know that he ended it essentially. And then as time goes on, you're trying to figure out why. So Happy Place is probably the only like really kind of second chance romance right off the top of my head that I can think that I'm like, that was done very well.
And I don't typically read them because I'm typically like,
if it didn't work the first time, don't try it again.
And then,
but also Gwen and Harriet have to do it again every time because I love them.
Yeah, and I was super excited for Make You Mine. I love a good age.
We love.
She was also his nanny.
Oh,
potential.
As it should.
So much potential. And it just fell off halfway through the book. I was just like, and I think part of it is I haven't read this author before, I don't think. And she'll give you like spice, but like she'll give you spice twice and then you get like a kind of like a closed door type of romance where it's like, it happens.
Right. And it feels like you have to go one way or the other.
Yeah.
If you're going to give spice, and now, I have to tell myself, I don't need it. So anytime I'm reading Zodiac Academy, if anyone hooks up, I just flip through the whole thing until whole thing. And honestly, okay, so, I told you about Darcy, the one that I do like, that's like doing the teacher.
Yeah.
That's great. I've already seen them hook up once. I really don't need to see it again.
And like, that's the thing is like,
and Caroline Peckham does and Susan, whatever her name is, they do a very good job with their smut. It's not like over the top by any means, but they also do a good job in the sense that they are very descriptive. There is a play by freaking play.
That's what makes me mad about Laura Pavlov is it's not a play-by-play, which is fine. But it's like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah, and this one there's always like a different reason why, but I'm just always I'm at a point now that she does have such a good story that I feel like you could let go of the smut a little bit.
Good enough to not write spice.
Right, exactly. We talked about this balance before of like, you either have to have a damn good story and you can get away with less smut, or you have to have like such good smut that I don't give a shit about the story.
And like, it's hard for me not to like an age gap, and it's also hard for me to not like Brother's Best Friend.
Yeah, it is. That is like your go-to.
But here's the thing: Brother's Best Friend. Again, it has to be done a certain way. Like, it can't be that. Oh well, I just don't feel like I don't know what it is with all these men. They don't want to get married. They don't want to get married. And so that's the big issue. And that's the reason that they're not together. And I'm like, this is stupid.
Yeah, not a valid reason.
Yeah, like, she probably doesn't legitimately care if she loves you and you're willing to give yourself to her.
Right.
But like, also, it's like, oh, we're going to keep it secret from everybody. But the girl, Charlotte was her name. She was such a goody two-shoes. And I can't stand a goody two-shoes. Like, I mean, kindergarten teacher goody two-shoes.
Ew.
Yeah. And I was just bored the whole time. And I feel like there was no like actual conflict other than the fact that they weren't together. Like,
and that's hard because if that's your whole story, then why write why write any kind of story about romance if the whole thing is
found out she didn't give a fuck. And that was like their biggest thing was, oh, when we were in 7th grade, my sister's friend like mauled me and I rejected her, and then she like started not being friends with my sister, so my sister said none of her friends could ever be with me. Okay, in 7th grade.
Yeah.
We are fully adults.
Go to therapy. Heal with it. Deal with it.
Like, and he was blaming his dad for cheating on his mom, for why he didn't want to be, because his dad's a terrible person. Okay, but you're sitting here paying off your mom's mortgage.
Right.
You're sitting here taking care of your nan. Like, you're not your father, and everybody keeps telling you that. And it was just
Too much.
So stupid. So I gave it 2 stars.
Okay.
And as a whole, the series, I'm not reading the 5th book and I'm selling them.
Yeah.
Even though they're really pretty.
Yeah. And that's why I always get kind of nervous around buying books just based off the cover.
Yeah.
Especially double whammy if it's like a new author too. Because I'm like,
She's not new. I've heard of her books before.
Well, I just mean like new to me.
Yeah. And I've heard of her books before. And like there's another series up there I bought because they were just pretty.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically like small town romances.
Right.
I didn't like her writing style.
Right.
And you never know. And like I said, I loved her second book. So I was like, okay, I'll keep going.
Right.
But then when I didn't like the third and then I didn't like the fourth, I was like, I'm not going to buy the 5th.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that I tried and now I'm giving up. And now I'm moving on to my dark romance era. I'm going to try to read the Hollow Boys, which I've heard good and bad things. And I can see both sides even in book 1.
Right.
And then, I'm going to read those and hopefully finish all 5 books this month. Because what are we? 3 and I'm like 75% of the way through book 1.
Yeah, that's how my kind of 2 cents is with, I think we talked about it too, as far as like, I know Zodiac Academy technically has like 12 books, but it's just going to be as I'm reading it, whenever I'm done with it, I'm just going to be done with it.
Different though with the Zodiac Academy because each book is multiple POVs but it's the same multiple POVs through all the books pretty much.
Right.
Except for you do get to do the Dark Fae, which I read.
Right.
Love them.
Right.
You go to a different school.
Did you see her Dark Fae, the covers that she was doing for that one? Yeah. I don't know how I feel about those. It's kind of giving me Once Upon a Broken Heart vibes in the sense that it's like that.
And here's my thing.
Kind of like stained glass.
Fae era. I don't know if I would read it or not. I feel like maybe.
Right.
But again, even with that one, you get to book 5, it's the same multiple POVs. And I kind of started skimming a little bit towards the end because I'm just like, okay. But I did like it and I gave it probably 5 stars. I might reread it at some point. But, it just depends. And, that was when I was in my little wide shoes era.
Yeah. I was curious to see because, I came into this with the expectation that it was going to be a wide shoes, but then I was like, how the hell is that going to work? There's 2 sisters.
Nope, it's not wide shoes, but when you get to Dark Fae, that's 5 books of nothing but wide shoes. And I love the main female character.
Good.
Loved her. Still to this day, love her.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't put up with any other shit.
Good deal. If you do it in a good way.
Yeah. I feel like Caroline Peckham typically does.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time with Tori right now.
But you remember how many characters is she writing in that book? You got to have one that's kind of like.
But I feel like you're supposed to not like Darius at the same time. Like, there's too many. I don't know.
Too many people you're not supposed to
There's too many people you're not supposed to like. And I did like Tori. So now that my feelings are changing for her, that's why I'm kind of getting frustrated in the sense of like, grow up. Like, please.
Yeah. I don't know. I tried Zodiac Academy. I didn't like it. Again, I'm a mood reader. Maybe I just wasn't in the mood for it. But I just didn't like. And then I think people spoiled things for me. And I was like, I'm not going to like that.
Yeah.
So he just wants up here so bad. And for what? Okay.
All right.
Our hot take.
Hot take for the month. Hot take time. All right. So this one's hot take. Just because we both have done a lot of series reading recently. Here we go. Not everything has to be a multiple book series. It is okay, and we've kind of briefly touched on this, but it is okay to bring back duologies and trilogies. And if you must in a trilogy, make it 4 books, do a little novella. But I feel like it's slowly becoming more of, I'm going to write another book for kind of like the profit side of things.
Yeah.
And because
coming out so quickly
right
one another that they're not taking the time to actually build a good story. The first book they'll build an excellent story
because you get sucked in.
And then the second book you're like, okay.
Sometimes you can still be hooked.
I see where they're going. And then third book you're like, where did they go?
Right. You're like lost. You're like, am I still reading?
Is this a a different author.
Sometimes, and then the same thing too is like sometimes there really is times where you do not want to let certain characters go. Like you do want to continue to live in these fields, like in these stories.
And it has to be hard for an author to like figure out like
how to close and end something to leave everyone kind of satisfied.
Because some people are going to be mad if they keep going. Some people are going to be mad that they stop.
Right.
And so, but I think if you just can't, if you cannot give the character the appropriate story,
right,
that is going to better them and better the story,
right,
just stop.
Or
take a break.
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay not to release. And I know, like, I get mad and we're like, we want the next book. But, like, I'm also okay waiting if that means I get a better story.
To some extent, but this is also why I'm so heated about everything becoming more and more of like series, because there's so many books that I have purchased and it's just my own, what I prefer to do. But like, I'm not going to read a book until it's finished.
Same.
But the problem with that is, one, you have so much space between books releasing.
Yeah.
Two, if they're ending on cliffhangers, I personally hate having things ending on a cliffhanger. If it's a cliffhanger I'll say this, if it's a cliffhanger that I feel like remotely content, but I could read more.
Yeah. It's those books that you see people read and they're like, oh my God.
Like he stopped breathing, acknowledgments, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, no. Whereas if it's just like, there's still a little uncertainty going on, but it could almost be like you draw your own conclusions out of it.
Right.
And then you're going to put another book out. That's fine. But not like this whole like book 4, book 5, like it's okay to just bring things back to telling a story. Dependent upon the story, when you're dealing with something like a fantasy, obviously it's going to be a little different. But
I feel like I
could wrap it up in like 2 or 3 books.
Yeah, and like not every character needs a book.
Bonsai tie. It was a fantastic series. I loved it. But there did not need to be 6 books, because then at that point too, I feel like you are like kind of dragging things out, and then it makes it even like you could have this fantastic time with the story in books 1 and 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And then at that point you're like, holy shit, I'm just trying to finish the series.
A lot of romance authors right now are doing like, like Laura Pavlov did, like all the sisters get a book.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. And side characters are okay. They don't need to be a main character. I am a side character lover. I love a good side character. Mm-hmm. They can make or break a book for me. And I feel like we're losing track of side characters at this point. Because
where is Vaughn? Where is he? Where is Vaughn? What happened to him? He got lost in the sauce in a 7-book series.
He did. But that's the thing. Do we want her to write a book just for
Vaughn? Sarah J. Maas, stay the fuck out of Terracin.
We're going to do a podcast for Throne of Glass where we talk about everything we love, we hate, we don't want her to do.
Our opinions. Yeah.
All of this like talk of a crossover. We're going to talk about it because it's going to be a whole podcast.
It cannot have anything else.
It'll just be like a 2-hour-long podcast if we went on a tangent about that. Yeah. Plus everything else we talked about.
Yeah.
So
that's its own thing. But it's a very it's a really great example. And don't get me wrong, I love that Throne of Glass was, I don't want that. Like, I want to always be back with those characters. I love them. But at the same time, 1, that's why I feel like I can't reread it, because there's so many books. They're huge. 2, if the more books you put in a series, the harder it is to keep up with all your loose ends.
It's true.
Yeah.
And but like I said, I'm a sucker for some side characters. I don't need to know their full story. What was his name? Knox? Was that who I was obsessed with in Throne of Glass?
Yes.
He was literally in book 1 and book 8. And I forget it was him.
Wait, where's Knox? He called me because I was ahead of you when we were reading that, and you were like, he's just gone.
But I loved him, so I'm a sucker for a side character. Mm-hmm. Not everybody needs a story.
Unless if there is, like, yes, it can be part of a series, but if everyone's own book has zero intertwining, I could just pick it up off a random bookshelf at the library, read it, and not know anything different. Like, that would be fine. So, that I think.
Yeah, there's a difference between, everybody having their own story and it's a standalone. But, like, even the books that I just read, like, there was so much intertwining of, like, the characters showing up, and you're like, well, who's that? When did they have a kid?
Right.
Like, well, what's that situation? Because it's, like, all so complicated.
Right.
So you feel like you have to read it
to get the full picture. Whereas if you want every sister to have a book, that's fine. That's great. Just let it be, this is their story. This is their story. And like bringing in some sort of side characters, but like giving enough of a description of like, oh, Rhett walks in and it's my brother's best friend or whatever. Yeah. And then being like, oh, okay, that's who that is.
Yeah.
But like it just drags everything out and it's pricey.
It is pricey.
$240 for 5 books. Granted, they're the luxe editions, so it's fine. I don't care. But
that's a special circumstance.
But even the regular books, were still like 50 something dollars on Amazon, 40, 50 bucks.
Yeah.
And I could not imagine buying the Zodiac series, even if I do end up liking it, because there's so many books in that series. But they are literally like they're so intertwined.
Yeah.
If you did not read book 1, 2, or 3, book 4, you're like, what the fuck is happening right now? Honestly, this is not on the topic of like, I would not mind if Orion, the professor, and Darcy had their own book. There's just something about a professor for me that I'm like, ate that shit up.
Absolutely.
Done so well, especially because sometimes like she plays in their professor and student into like them being in their own little thing. Mm-hmm. And that's great. But basically, everything doesn't have to be a multi-book series, or if it does, just giving readers the flexibility to not read every single book.
I understand fantasies usually have
Fantasies are the exception.
But there is a point
in a fantasy
where it's like, okay, the story's over.
Right.
We don't need to keep adding more to it.
Right. Because then and that was one thing, like in the War of the Lost Hearts, I did not feel that at any point. I did not feel like, oh my God, we're still dragging this. Like when there were things that happened, I will say all of the problems played into one another very well and also into the biggest problem of all. Yeah. Instead of like you have this big problem and that's like what the main train is throughout the story, like having these little random problems throughout the story that don't feel super relevant. Mm-hmm. Like these would be things that would happen that obviously if this goes wrong, they are affecting the biggest problem of all. So that plays into keeping you entertained to be like, oh yeah, okay, I wonder what's going to happen to this because, like if she dies here, then obviously who's going to like save the land? Or if he loses his power, how is he going to fight? Like things like that. So anyways,
that's our hot take for the month.
Hot take for the month. Surely to God, someone's not going to disagree with that.
We don't know.
I don't know. If you do, it's fine. Just be nice.
Just be nice.
Just be nice. It's free to be nice.
We're just girls.
I'm just a girl. That is literally my excuse for everything.
I'm just a girl.
I'll get pulled over. I'm just a girl. Just a girl. Yeah. Anything else as far as...
No, that's it.
I don't think so. Yeah. Make sure
Give us y'all's hot takes.
We do want hot takes. I need to start putting some polls throughout the month for hot takes. Yeah, because like, we want to go off them.
We have them, but
we just want to hear more.
What y'all want to hear about or what y'all's hot takes are.
Literally. And if you like this video, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a comment. I don't know. Share it. If you also we have been experimenting more on socials with just book recommendations as far as like TikTok and Reels and things like that. So, if you like the book stacks, if you want more specific genres of books that we've read as far as recommendation, keeping in mind that we don't know you, we don't know what you like to read. So take it with a grain of salt, but I do the research. Yeah. I can scour something up. So I think that's it for this month. So
we'll see y'all next time.
See you next time. Bye.